That was creepy. Oh my God.
Yeah, try finding that one. You didn't know he existed. This property over around 1846 or so became the county pork farm. There was over 200 acres, and it was literally a farm. And they had crops, animals, gardens, things like that. If you lived here, you worked. They would sell that stuff. That's how they made their money. Husband and wife would run it. They are called the matron and steward. And it was their job to take care of the farm and the residents. Sometimes they didn't always do the best job. There were kids here, elderly here, all age ranges. The one thing that is highly unlikely is that there were physically disabled people here. They needed people to work the farm, so you needed to be able to get out and about and do that. Depression hit. This facility here no longer had any kids. There were a couple other houses, more like just brick structures. We were told one burnt down and the other one they physically picked up and moved. Somewhere around 2004, the county leased it to a company that ran it as a group home for adults with mental disabilities. There are two houses out back. The one that you guys will use was built in 1930, and a caretaker lived there at some point. And then in later years, when the other company had it, upper functioning residents would get to live back there. It closed in November of 2010. The facility that was here went to the county and said, hey, we need some upgrades. And the county said, we are not going to put any money into the building. So they left. So in November of 2010, there were 32 adult residents here. And they just one day up and went. Now there are some residents who are still in the area. There's a name on one of the lockers over here. That gentleman does live in Monticello.
Eric?
Yes. So usually on Saturday afternoon, sometimes I'll come by and I'll stop, and if I have things going on, he's actually been on tours with us before. He was one of the residents that actually liked it here.
So he's not gonna stop by tonight though, right?
What?
He's not gonna come tonight?
No.
I just wanna make sure if like someone's knocking on the door, we're like, who is it?
Yeah, it would be Eric. I will not guarantee that somebody else might not decide to show up. Once I leave site, I can't control who comes. It's up to you guys. You guys have permission to be here, nobody else does.
Do you guys have any poisonous spiders in here?
Not over here.
Not that you know of? Okay.
This room actually in the 1950s was someone's room.
This was janitor room, right?
And it was a resident room.
But this is the room.
This is where Mr. His name is Paul, and he's in his early to mid 30s. And when his mom died, he had always lived at home with mom, but when she died, his siblings didn't know what to do with him, so they stuck him in the county home.
Do you know what he had?
I don't know.
No.
And I don't. There's lots of questions on exactly when he was here.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't like it here at all, and he could have walked out the front door anytime he wanted, but instead he chose to hang himself. Mm-hmm. And he did hang himself in this room on his doorknob. And we've spoken to a live person who was here that day, who saw him still attached dead. Now this gentleman is in his upper 80s, if not even higher by now, and he had always worked here as their plumber maintenance person. And so he was here one day and came down and saw him. So when we had an issue, we called him, and he was like, do you know about the ghost? And we're like, what? He's like, yeah, can I get inside? And so he brought us in, came right to this room, described the situation. He can't remember the years, but he thinks it's between 53, 4, or 5, so right around that time period. It is highly likely this is the original door, but they did turn it into their mop closet, so this is where they would have kept their cleaning supplies, chemicals, all that other fun stuff. So not original handle. The door closes and latches, you will not be able to get back in. But if you want to come in here and shut the door, you should be able to get back out.
So like, you can open it from the inside, not the outside?
Correct.
Correct, okay.
Most of the time you can open it from the inside.
Most of the time. All right, we'll try that out later.
That's insane.
Is this old enough to have lead paint?
I am surmising that the stuff that's still on the walls is the lead paint. In January or February of 2011 and October.
Is that the original thermostat?
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
The men's wing is on this side, first and second floor. Women's wing on the on the other side.
Okay.
So they intended to keep the sexes separate for their sleeping quarters, but they worked together, ate together, did their activities together, all that other stuff. We will go up the back staircase and you can access those, but you don't have to. It's just the way that I go on the tour. Couple things to know about the doors. And occasionally they do this.
So we hear a big...
It's not door.
Yep, check in with each other to see if anybody opened the door. Some of them slam, some of them don't.
And where's the staircase leading you?
This one we're gonna go up. We have a black lab whose name is Kaylee, and she's in here with us a lot. One time, there was probably 6 or 7 of us. We're on the 2nd floor. She's in here wandering around, and someone asked where the dog was, and we can hear her whining. She was in the staircase. Now, this is a steel, heavy door. There's absolutely no way the dog can open it.
That's crazy.
The puzzle here is original, but I'm up to about 12 people that I'm aware of that have taken a puzzle piece home with them, but they didn't know that they took it. It ends up in their bags, in their clothes, in their shoes. I've had 3 people mail theirs back, 2 brought theirs back, and I don't know what happened to the rest of them. But the one guy, the last guy that mailed his back, he was here on a day tour, and he had emailed me, and I'm reading it, hey, when they got home, his daughter found a puzzle piece in her shoe. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then the next line says, I need to send it back to you. Okay, reading more, and she broke her ankle like a couple days after that.
You doing good?
This is all the old
She just standing in random doorways to scare you.
Yes, so.
That is beautiful. Can I touch it?
Yeah. There are lots of, that was here. They were really big into decorating. So,
It's a black
Halloween, Easter, Christmas. Now there is a man in this room. He's very tall, very large, and he's kind of stooped. And he paces in that corner over there. We learned about him. This was their number 1. Now that same described figure actually stands in the doorway of the room at the end of the hall, which that room is called the Blue Room. I have spoken to a lady who's a direct descendant of one of the original stewards. So he was the male part of the person that ran the farm. His name was Thomas King. And she remembers hearing about an uncle. He would have been great, I don't know how many greats, but he lived here, he died here, and he is described like that. The other thing she told me is that he is very protective of women. There's lots of personal items here. The only staging I do is I try to keep the beds made and the paint swept up and things like that.
Right.
So there are personal, the boots were here, there's clothes in the dresser.
So this is all personal items.
Yep, that was here. What? I always felt sad when I found that. I'm like, oh, whoever lived here didn't get Peppa Pig. This one, yeah, I didn't know who Peppa Pig was, but everybody says that when they come in. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'll take whatever donation
Do I need
anybody
to show
can give
you?
me. I was
Do I
like,
need to show you what Peppa Pig is?
I have a pig, but her name's not Peppa.
You should have named her Peppa.
Well, I was gonna eat her, so I didn't.
Oh my god!
Oh my Jesus. What the heck? So this is room 200, and the reason that people get to come is this room. Shortly after we bought it, my friend decides he's going to spend the night here by himself. So he picks this room because the hallway has always given him a very interesting feeling. And he calls me, and I am not comfortable with him being here. I know nothing about this place. I live an hour away. I'm like, and I keep trying to convince him to come home. He's like, no, I'm fine. Nothing's going to happen. Except at this moment, something's touching my foot. I thought he was teasing me, and I still didn't believe him until the dog went nuts. And 15, 20 minutes go by and she does it again. Same thing, up she pops, hair all over, barking, growling. She gets off the bed and she's nose to nose with that radiator. He's like, I can't, there's nothing there. There are a couple of women in here. The lady on this side has short dark hair. She's sitting in a chair and she's kind of rocking. The lady on this side is elderly and angry. Now they do have different energies, and some people can feel it and some people can't. And it can be anything as simple as a change in temperature. You could have like the ice cream headache. You could feel like you're poked or touched or scratched.
Should I slam the door like that?
Or stop on purpose. On not purpose, I guess. Humidity was wonders if it would.
Wow, that stinks.
And we haven't had as much snow
You should have brought masks.
this year than we have. There's a man in this room that he stands in the corner over there. But one of the first times my friend was here, we thought about getting a working bathroom in here, but because we don't heat it, gotta do special things. He had a physical experience in the room with the bathroom over there, blew it off, goes to the boiler room, now he's gonna leave, and it's between noon and 2. He hits that doorway and immediately out the corner of his eye sees a man standing in that corner. So he turns to confront the guy. He says they stared at each other for what felt like forever. Probably was only a few seconds. And then that man disappeared. How tall are you?
6'2".
This man is about 6'3", and he's wearing like a leather duster, like a cowboy coat, and he's got a flat-brimmed round-topped hat. He's just standing there. Another guy that lives in the basement, more formally known as the Joker. I have never felt anything malevolent here, but I personally have been pushed. I've personally had my hair pulled, seen people scratched. I see what I call are the peekers, the ones that do that really quick, the doorways and the windows. I can also hear conversations, they talk. So I don't think he's evil, but do I think he's ornery? You bet. He wants you to be afraid of him. Sometimes he presents all black, all white, but he is extremely tall.
How tall?
Like, he can do this. He will get up all in your space. If you have a tiny bubble, he will try to get all up in it. He loves to follow people, and he likes girls. Lots of people that don't believe, and that's why you're here. Right. The boiler room is, so this hallway here is where I was pushed. There are a couple of walk-in freezers. It's in various places if you want to plug them in. Take some. This would have been your dining room, so you had to come downstairs to eat. And they all do work. Oh, wow. Wow. Because but the thing about that is that if I let them go too long and they're on, the blades will fly off.
Yeah.
So I put the blades on.
So they all used to be shaped like that?
Well, they were normal. Again, they had heat and running water.
Right.
But when they blew the lines and shut the heat off, there was a little bit of a water leak down here, and so humidity literally melted all the fans. One of the first encounters with the guy that lives in the basement, there was that little silver buffet kind of sat next to that pillar, and there were some ceramic plates on there. And there were probably 6 or 7 people down here going to set up their cameras, and one of those plates went flying across the room. They did not have their cameras on, but they all witnessed it. So I removed the dishes and said stop throwing it, but he still manages to find things to throw.
In this room.
Yes, some of the keys do still work. And I do have people that have EVPs of it playing. So this room is not original to the building. When you drove by, you may have seen a grassy hill with a white box on it. You're underneath that. This is the storm shelter. There is a man that stands here. Your light on your camera, but if you could shut that off for just a tad, you can see how dark it is in this room. It's not the darkest room in the world. What?
Get that. But somehow, something little always gets knocked over.
This is the old padded room. On the original blueprints is a room called a cell, and I just automatically assumed this was it, knowing that it looked a little different, but it wasn't.
This is not a very big room. Yeah, no.
Well-
I feel really bad for that guy.
The padding would have hung from the ceiling, been secured to the floor, and there would have been a steel door like that here. And they'd throw you in a straitjacket, throw you in there and try to calm yourself down. But that room there actually had a wall, and that was the cell. This wasn't built until 1970. The room has a brick wall on this side here, and then it has limestone and a concrete ceiling.
Limestone? Ooh, you know what that means?
The boiler room has limestone walls as well. We're next to Stone City. They had the big quarry and things, so when they were building things, they could just use local materials, and that's what was around.
Yeah, so limestone is like a super battery for spirits.
Yes. But I'm gonna have you step over that way. Have you come in and shut your light off again.
Oh, is this the darkest room? Yeah, it's pretty dark.
Yeah.
Get out and leave. Have been heard either with your ears or on equipment.
What are these?
They're called dump leaders.
That's, oh my god, can I open it?
Yeah. They don't. They're frozen, so they don't work. I haven't been able to get them unfrozen, and I don't want to crawl in there to try to do that.
These don't fall, right? Okay.
They're on a pulley system.
Oh my god, all of the cobwebs. Okay, that's enough. Can we sign the door?
Well, I'm going to tell you about the door. There are things that happen in the kitchen. Things get thrown. I've seen the oven doors open and close. I've seen the stock pot swing. People have heard that rack rattle, but they didn't see it move. Silverware flies out of there. Lots of different things like that. I don't condone graffiti anywhere. I will not give you anything to write on the door. Should you choose to do that, la 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 la, do not be a Max. So here, where it says, all my love, miss you guys, Sandy R. She was the activity director out here for 32 years.
Oh, wow.
There's one up here, Jessica May. I don't know if she was an employee or a staff member, 2009. Dreama, 2009. Austin, 2010. These are people who lived or worked here. I don't want to have to paint the door because people are being stupid.
Right.
Yeah.
No, fair enough.
So that's my only rule. Women's wing. Early on, we were given information that a young adult female lived here. She was consistently harassed by a man, and eventually he did assault her several times. in that bed. I don't know if that's the exact bed, but that's the location. Have you heard of Edinburgh Manor?
I think I have.
It's on the western side of Iowa. Okay, Josh Hurd, I don't know if he owns it, but he runs it, and he and another gal have written several books. Our book is called We Are Edinburgh, and they focus on the deaths at the property. And so they do tons of research. The book contains death records, obituaries, things like that. They were able to verify 253 documented deaths on our property. Do you know what the Mental Health Institute of Iowa is in Independence? It's called MHI for short. Okay, that's an actual mental hospital. There are records that show 19 patients arrived from MHI today. So we did have insane people that would come here. What their level of insanity is a question. You know, other than suicide, I know there's been a couple of other suicides, lots of natural deaths. Somebody drank strychnine, bad way to die. But you know, there are some people that will put stuff out there that they say are facts, and they may or may not be. So there's information out there, but who knows? I mean, the article after we bought the place was published in 2 different newspapers that we were making a bed and breakfast. That was never going to happen.
I was about to say, that's a weird reason.
Yeah. The problem with things like that are the people, and I don't ever mean to offend anyone, the people who make up the codes and, you know, builder people, because, you know, my electricity works. I just don't have time to change all the light bulbs.
Yeah.
I could have running water should I choose. I'm on a well system, but because the heat, it's just cost prohibitive to do that. It's been an interesting ride. You know, we didn't set out to do this. It just kind of fell into our laps. I've met people from all over the world. I have someone coming in May, I think, to do senior pictures.
Here?
What?
That's crazy.
I have a gal.